got me plotting, got me thinking, how can I come up and get myself a Lincoln? Got me plotting, got me thinking, how can I come up and get myself a Lincoln out of Continental?
Hey, this is Tony Boss Bolin coming to you from the Lincoln Addict Podcast.
Hey, it's Jason ODB, also known as the Lincoln Addict. Thanks for coming back and checking us out for another episode. This is episode 21. That's dropping on January 21st of 2022. All of these stars seem to be aligning, and can't thank everyone enough for coming back. A lot of the good feedback that I get. Please, if you're on an iPhone or maybe an iPad device, or you're listening on your Mac through the Apple Podcasts app, please tap on Library and select Lincoln Addict. Scroll down to the bottom and tap the 5 stars. You can go a step beyond if you'd like, and you can write a review, even if it's short and sweet. Hey, love the episodes, love what you're doing. That really helps out, so please consider doing that if you don't mind. So this episode, I wanted to kind of let everyone know I'm sticking by my guns the best I can. This is 2022, and this is the second episode. I'm excited to also mention that I have been putting out some new YouTube content, and that's going to continue throughout the rest of the year. So I've got a lot of great ideas. I've got some stuff I've already posted, some that's already in the works. So make sure you go out and follow Lincoln Addict on YouTube as well. So a quick overview of this episode. I want to thank our 2 title sponsors, which includes Devious Customs. Many of you are looking to buy a Lincoln, or you own one and you're looking for parts. I can tell you Devious Customs is one of the best companies out there to offer parts for these cars. When you go out there, the website's very easy to use. If you go to Kits and Parts, you can go to Shop Lincolns, and you'll see all the stuff they offer. Jeff has rolled out everything from subwoofer enclosures to LS mounts. Also, kind of even for the purists, if you want to upgrade to kind of a newer style window switch without having the old ones rebuilt, you can go right out to deviouscustoms.com. He's got different stuff, speaker pods, and he continues to expand into different years, including 68, 69. Also, Dakota Digital gauges out there, and, of course, his world-famous suspension kits if you want to put your car on airbags. So, deviouscustoms.com. Thanks to Jeff. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. Also, huge shout-out to Colorado Custom Wheels. If you don't know, now you know. Colorado Custom Wheels, they produce and manufacture the billet-style replica Lincoln wheel that looks just like the hubcap. They'll make it in a 17, an 18, a 20, 22, you name it. CC Cycle Wheels. Colorado, I actually always go, CC Cycle Wheels is one of theirs, but you can go to coloradocustom.com. They're on Facebook as well. They're on Instagram. Let them know that Lincoln Addict sent you. Michael and team will give you the best customer service in the industry, and they will take care of their clients. He's done plenty of Lincoln wheels, so tip of the cap to those folks. But on this episode, I'm super excited to announce that we're going to have Nick Griot on from Griot's Garage. If you don't know the name, you must be sleeping under a rug, because Griot Garage is something that you would see at your local potential parts store and things like that in the detail section for detailing supplies. So Griot's Garage, as soon as we get going, I'm sure you'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that logo. Maybe you've used the products. Hopefully, if you haven't, you'll get a chance to learn about those. And then, of course, Nick has one of the coolest resto mod style Lincolns really anywhere that I've seen. So I'm excited to talk about that with him. He's a great guest. Stick with us. We'll get to that audio just in a few minutes. Now, the previous episode recap, just quick here, we did have Mark on, so if you're new to the podcast, maybe you landed here because of Nick, or you've seen Nick share this, thank you so much. I've dedicated a lot of my time to our lifestyle podcast, which we call OLP for short, and we've been doing that one 6.5 years now. We do a weekly episode every single week. It's been 3+ years, so a lot of focus is over there, and I say that make sure you search OLP via your favorite podcast app, and you'll see that podcast. And we talk about mini trucks and old school BMX and all kinds of cool stuff. But on this one, we're up to episode 21, right? And we're going to expand that hopefully nicely in 2022. But the last episode, episode 20, Mark was on, and we got a chance to talk a lot about his barn find, which was a true barn find, and the fact that he recently got the car back from Lincoln Land. The great fine folks over there at Lincoln Land Inc. here in Clearwater. Tip of the cap to Chris Dunn, Teresa, all of the great folks, George, and all of those guys over there for what they do, and the ladies, and just everyone in the organization. If you need parts, you can always search on Google Lincoln Land, and that will pull right up there. I always type in Lincoln Land Inc., and that will get you over to their website, which is LincolnLandInc.com. They specialize in classic Lincolns of all genres since 1978. But again, Mark had his car there. He's a great guy. And the quick update was, although he had gotten the car back, he did still have a hiccup with the transmission, although they kind of thought that they worked out those gremlins. However, he does have a plan B, and he's working through that, and he is looking forward to getting back and driving the car. The thing that I would tell you is Lincoln life is not always easy. Right? So just know, for all the times you see people cruising and having a good time and enjoying it and everything working fine, there are times when you're going to run into hiccups. And if you're doing anything where you've taken the car apart and, it's not original anymore, Chris Dunn at Lincoln Land has told me this many times, if your transmission's not broke, don't necessarily go and rebuild it, right? I did in my car. The issue that I had that I've talked about was not really related to the rebuild. It was more the install. But, you start taking things apart, and it doesn't always go back the way it originally was. And not saying that you can't make it happen. You definitely can. But, just know that things aren't always silky smooth with these Lincoln Continental. So, with that being said, Mark's back on the rise, as we always say, and we're looking forward to him cruising his amazing car very, very soon. So more updates to come. If you haven't, go back and check out the previous episode, episode 20 with Mark Evans. Now, so this episode I talked about Nick will be on, so I'm excited. A couple more minutes away, and then we'll air that audio. Lincoln Life update. So this is brought to you by Steel Rubber. We had Steel Rubber on before, and what you want to know is if you've got one of these cars or you're looking at purchasing them, go to steelrubber.com. STEELE rubber.com. They have products from everything from RVs to old school cars, campers, marine, you name it. But one of the cool things is when you go out to their website, you can go to product lines, and you can go to street rods, and you can kind of drill down to the type of car that you have, right? So there's a lot of different sections out here, but if you go to catalogs, you can even request a catalog. They have on-demand catalogs as well. But the great thing about it is Steel, they make the best products in the industry. And what's important there is these cars are continuing to go up in value, these 60 Lincolns. And what's important is that you protect them from the elements, including that moisture and the water. So, whether it's maybe a wind noise that's driving you crazy, or maybe it's just stuff that when you open your deck lid or your trunk and you see how weathered those different seals are, make sure you hit up Steel Rubber. Whether you look up the parts online, you give them a call, whatever, they'll take care of you, the best in the business. That's steelrubber.com. So really the only Lincoln Life update that I have is I did drive my 64 Lincoln Continental on New Year's Day. We went to a cruise. I did a video, and that video is on YouTube, so I'll talk a little bit about it. Of course, that day I did have a hiccup when I got home, and it was of my doing, and I'm trying to do a better job of talking about not only the good, but sometimes the bad, and this one was a total mistake by myself, or by me. And what I mean by that is I have done, obviously with the motor rebuilt and all this stuff redone in the engine bay, I upgraded to a one-wire alternator. It's an easy upgrade. There is a couple of write-ups in the Lincoln forum. Pat helped me kind of some of the questions I had. You kind of get rid of that voltage regulator, and I have a 240 amp alternator, which is huge. I think they originally came with like 45 to 65, something right around there. But when we upgraded it, I had my buddy Paul, one of my best friends, and he always helps me. We took a real nice, good quality, heavy gauge, I don't know, like a 0 to 1 gauge wire. And what he did was he helped me solder on the ends. I suck at soldering. I don't know why I can't, figure this thing out. I don't let it get hot enough. And there's this one big cable that comes from the alternator that goes right to the battery. I always, at least in this car, I've always ran a red top Optima battery. And that big heavy gauge wire will go right to the side post of the battery. So I utilize the top and the side posts. And what I realized was when I got home, I backed the car up, didn't leave it running, even though my steering column's been rebuilt. I did not leave the car running. I always turn it off. Open the garage door. It's kind of a roll-up door. Got back in the car, and it was totally dead. Okay? On the way home, I could feel a little bit of just sputtering. I was like, something's not right. And what it turns out, I made the mistake of when I would hook the one other wire that I have that goes to the real nice side post. I got the Stinger nice terminals. I forgot the last, I think, 2 times I drove the car to hook that nice big wire that Paul helped me with. Of course, that wasn't hooked up from the alternator. So guess what? The 240 amp alternator was not charging anything because it wasn't hooked up to the battery. So luckily, the red top took care of me all day. That thing was at 100% when I left. I basically drove and cruised over to a gas station, met up with some homies. Then we cruised to St. Pete, hung out there, started the car, drove to Bill's house. So tip of the cap to Bill, the big homie that lives here now with the 68. Hung out there, cranked the car with no issue. Took a quick photo over at the Lincoln Center with Tony Boss Bolin, cruised home, backed up to the shop, turned the car off, opened the door, boom, the car wouldn't start. Of course, one thing I highly recommend, if you ever do go with an Optima battery, buy the Optima battery charger. There's a lot of discussion over the years of, can you use a regular battery charger? Some say you can, some say no, you can't. It's going to mess up your battery. Years ago, I went on Amazon and I basically purchased one of the specifically made Optima battery chargers. And that has been a lifesaver. There's a couple of other companies that make them. There's one called like Naco, and I have not used those. Now, they have them for like $30 to $50, which I'm thinking about trying them because they got 7,000 and 25,000 reviews, and they're almost a 5-star. The one I have, of course, I paid more money for it. It's the Optima Digital 400, and it has 2,700 reviews, and it's $120. So, again, I haven't ventured off much from that Optima brand, but I got an open box one, and my box was like, it had like a little ding in it. No issue with the charger, and it was like $80, I think, back in the day. So, that's one thing I would recommend if you decide to go with an Optima battery. But long story short, my Lincoln Life update was something simple. And as soon as I opened the hood and I was looking around, I was like, well, wait a minute, where's this nice big wire going? And of course, it was dangling right underneath the battery tray. And I'm like, man, what am I doing here? So again, we all make mistakes. I make them more than most. And that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. But again, I want to thank Steel Rubber. Go to Steel Rubber, STEELE rubber.com. Look those fine folks up. They're great people. All right, so Lincoln sales, right? This one's a quick one. I do want to give a huge shout-out to someone that has been a longtime follower of ours. This guy, Joe, he's got amazing skills. I got not many skills. And Joe is Weld County Customs, and that's Customs with a K, and it ends with a Z on Instagram, okay? Weld County, just how it sounds, Customs with a K and with a Z. The car that they built, that Joe built, is going up for sale, and I would, basically say this is potentially the baddest Lincoln ever built, okay? I say that because the amount of work and craftsmanship that went into this 62 Lincoln Continental convertible, coyote swap, full interior, full undercarriage. I have seen a lot of Lincolns. I've seen a lot of photos. I don't think I've ever seen one this nice. I really don't. The level of detail is amazing. You can actually go on YouTube and check out Barrett Jackson's official YouTube page or YouTube channel, and they did a video on it. So check it out. The interior is stunning. It does have Dakota Digital gauges, but you can imagine going with a modern fuel-injected engine. That's just the way to go. The interior, the way the bucket seats are, it's unbelievable. The undercarriage of the car, I just have not seen one ever this nice. So tip of the cap. It's going across, I believe, on January 29th, January 29th. It's going across the auction block. I'm going to be excited to see. 2 years ago, a black 65 convertible sold for $330,000. Okay, and to me, I would put money and say this car is way nicer. Now, granted, the black one was a restoration. It wasn't a resto mod, so you're going to have potentially people there that want, showroom or better show quality type condition. This one obviously is a step above, in my opinion, because I love resto mods. It's got probably more money in it. Now, that one, they claimed they had receipts for $237,000 for that resto. And again, it sold for $330,000. And I forget, I don't think that includes the fees. So it might have even been a higher, or I don't know how Barrett Jackson does on their website. You can log in the app and it will show you the price. It says $330,000, but that might be with the fees. Maybe it sold for $300,000 and then with the fees it's $330,000. But regardless, $330,000 is a lot. This one, I hope, goes for more. I mean, I wish Joe and team all of the luck. It's an amazing car, but check out Weld County Customs if you just want to get a sneak peek of what it looks like. Amazing the amount of work that he does, so I'm excited to see. That one, of course, isn't one that we're involved in, but I'm just excited for the homie. So, go out there and get them and kill it, man. I'm excited. All right. This week, I'm not going to cover anything, and I didn't last episode either. I didn't really cover any Lincolns in the movies, TV shows, and music videos, but I will continue that going forward. The only update that I have for Project Smuggler's Blues, my 64 that I drove on New Year's Day. Again, you can go to Lincoln Addict on YouTube, and you can check out the video. It is going to Jimmy's Rod and Customs very soon, and what my hope is that I'll have it bagged by Lone Star Throwdown, and I can trailer it out there. Now, I've been to Lone Star Throwdown, I've trailered stuff. It's a long drive, but I'm super excited, hopefully, to take my car to Texas. The last piece of the puzzle was I wanted to make the install super clean in the trunk. Universal Air, when I was out at SEMA, they finally are a company that's offering a product that I really wanted. And we've seen AccuAir in the past with their Exo mount, where you kind of go, okay, boom, they got their tank. You've got these 3 mounts that mount around the tank, one for each compressor, one for kind of that ECU/VU4. And they have hinted that they're going to have another replacement product to kind of come out in the market for that, but that hasn't happened yet as far as I know. When I was at SEMA and I had been following Universal Air via Instagram, I saw their new modular tank. Now, we've seen stuff from like Flow come out. We've seen, of course, the AccuAir Indo CVT that is not going to continue in the marketplace. I've seen Sadistic Ironworks come out with some cool stuff. I've also noticed Square Tank has come out. I've seen different seamless tanks that I really like. But the Universal Air tank, to me, was the icing on the cake. It's a modular design, so it kind of has squared off kind of looking ends. You've got these rods, one on each, I don't want to say corner because it is a round tank, but kind of one on each side, so you get the 4 rods. And their modular system that they built allows you to have these nice billet brackets, and they might be steel, but they're these very cool brackets. I think they color match them. They ask you all that stuff on their website, universalair.com, and you're basically able to mount your compressors In my case, the VU4 from AccuAir and the ECU Plus. Of course, if you're running airlift, you can utilize that as well. Now, if you're looking for any air suspension products, again, Devious Customs, they can take care of you. I know Chris over at CS Metalworks, Chris Burns, one of my good friends. It's CS Metalworks. So, right there, boom, on Instagram. They've done a lot of cool stuff. He's out in California, and I love the work that he puts out. And got a chance to hang out with him at SEMA. He graciously took care of me by ordering the tank and all of that. So, again, if you are in the need, you can also check out CS Metalworks, Devious Customs as well, one of our title sponsors. But I say all that because that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. Now, I did recently mention that I picked up the pressure-based system to tie into my VU4. I'm thinking, hey, it's a little bit easier to install. You don't have to run a wire to each corner for the AccuAir kind of E-level setup and whatnot. Now, Jimmy at Jimmy's Running Customs, he actually prefers that setup. He prefers the non-pressure base because he said, it's always going to be adjusting. You put more people in the car, you fill the car with fuel, those type of things. So, he's like, hey, just go out and get the levelers. We'll throw them on. We've installed plenty of them. We put them on your 67, you name it. But I don't know if I'm going to do that yet because I kind of feel like the cool thing about the pressure-based system is, it's all confined right there into the trunk. You have those plugs that go into the sensors, rather, that go into the top of the VU4. And I also did an unboxing of this stuff, everything but the new tank. That's over on our Lifestyle Podcast YouTube channel. Okay, so OLP's YouTube channel, you can check it out there. And the tank, I'll be doing an unboxing here. Hopefully that'll air next week. So, but I say all that because what's cool is you can go with the pressure-based system like I plan to do and then come along and say, hey, maybe that's not working out for you. Then you can add in the extra piece. That's very similar to what Airlift has been offering in the market, kind of allowing you to stair step up. And I think that's fantastic. But I guess I may decide to go get and say, hey, well, if Jimmy's going to have the car, he's going to have it maybe for a week or so. Man, just do it all at once. I don't know if I'm going to bite the bullet yet, but I had it on my 67. I didn't really drive the car much, but really enjoyed it, and we'll have to see. But I'm looking forward to using the new ECU Plus. I'm looking forward to using their app and just having the car bagged with all of the powder-coated Devious Customs parts. I worked back with Jeff a couple years ago. I've got the Colorado custom wheels. All that stuff was bought. Literally, I've been patient. I've been waiting about 2 years. Some people say, hey, man, how could you be so patient? Anybody can airbag these cars. Well, Jimmy at Jimmy's Running Customs, man, he's a cut above, in my opinion. He built my truck. I love how he hardlines things where applicable. Steel braided lines, bulkhead fittings, super, super clean. So I can't wait to share the updates with Project Smuggler's Blues here in just a short, hopefully few weeks. And if all goes well, I'll trailer it out to Texas for Lone Star Throwdown. I am pre-registered. And if you're out there, last weekend in Conroe, Texas, in February, come on out, hang out, let's slap hands. I'll be over in the Our Lifestyle Podcast booth, which is not far from where the main entrance is. So much more coming on that. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up my audio here so we can roll into Nick's. Thank you for all of the continued support. Check us out on YouTube. Leave a rating here on Apple Podcasts if you can. If you're not on an iPhone device, I totally understand. There's not really kind of a rating system to use. I guess if you're in Podbean, you can leave a comment. That would be appreciated, so thank you guys much. It's all the ladies out there that are representing also in the Lincoln community. We certainly appreciate what you guys are doing. So, tip of the cap, be safe this weekend. And if you didn't know, now you know. Go Packers. I'm a big Packers fan. I was raised a Packers fan. It's a long story. Go Pack Go. We'll hit you hopefully in 2 more weeks with the new episode. Stay on the rise. And tip of the cap to Tony Boss Bolin, who also has Death Row Lincoln's Instagram account. Check him out. Appreciate y'all. Take care. Peace. Hey, as I mentioned here earlier in the podcast, want to just really thank Nick for sitting down with us here as we get a little bit crazy into 2022 with our second episode. And Nick, I just want to say thanks for sitting down and welcome to Lincoln Addict Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jason. I'm pretty stoked to chat everything Lincoln and everything in between with you.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, I think one of the just a good icebreaker question and to get us started is, just a little bit about yourself. I know you through social media. I've got a couple of buddies that have met you over the years, and I know you guys have a great brand. I want to talk Lincolns as well, but what's a little bit of the backstory about Nick, man?
So I am definitely 100% sick in the head as it relates to my love for cars, and I am the son of a guy who is the same way. And so I grew up in and around our business, which is Griot's Garage, and we make car care products and a bunch of tools and accessories to make it easy for people to take care of the cars they love. And I've always been in and around this business, whether it was working in the warehouse as a teenager, and then starting my own detailing business and using our products to go mobile and go to golf clubs and earn money to buy beer and buy expensive parts for my cars. And really just had a great garage to grow up with, a great mentor in my dad, who always welcomed me and my friends over to do absolutely heinous things to our high school cars. And I went off to school and came back, and my dad said he didn't want me to work for him. So I went and found another job working in commercial real estate, and that was a very tough business, but an awesome business, and made some good money. But I really was just always the car guy in the offices that I worked in with a bunch of guys that knew nothing about their cars. So I'd be, in a coat and tie on my back looking at somebody's undercarriage, and really never escaped my destiny. And after doing that for about 6 years, I came back in my dad's office and I said, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. So he was kind of pissed off because he wanted to retire and go off into the sunset. And we've been working side by side for the past 8 years, and he's still in the building doing a lot of work, but I get to work with our excellent team of managers and employees to bring car care products to the people that love cars just as much as we do. So I'm surrounded by them every day. I literally, if I get tired, I go out and sit in an old car or do something to my car on a lunch break. I have, we have the facilities for that. And when I travel for car shows or to go to our manufacturing plant, and, I'm around it all the time. So this is my life. And I feel very fortunate to not only have the opportunity to grow up in and around a car family like I did, but to work for this business. And again, we sell fun. I get to a pretty low stress job that as it relates to what we sell and what we do, but doesn't mean there aren't tough days. It's just it's hard to lose focus of what at the end of the day we're selling car wax, and people like waxing their cars and making them look good. So it's a fun gig.
Yeah, no doubt. One of our title sponsors, Jeff at Devious Customs, he always kind of will post a caption for his photo and say, man, the old saying is, if you love what you do, you don't really spend a day of your life working, right, so to speak. And it seems like I can kind of see that passion not only with your posts on social media, but kind of like what you're explaining now. Now, when I go to griotsgarage.com, one thing I notice is that you guys are up in like Tacoma, Washington. So did you grow up, out in the Pacific Northwest, as they call it?
Yeah, I was born in L.A. and that's where the company was started, down in Southern California. And as our chemical manufacturing grew, California is a hard state to do that in. And we moved up to Washington when I was about 5. So I've grown up here my entire life, and I love this area. It can be miserable at times, like right now. It's quite miserable, just torrential rain and freezing cold, but it's just a beautiful part of the country. And, I had the opportunity to be our CDL driver and see the entire country over about 3 years. And there's tons of beautiful parts of the country, but I feel very fortunate to have lived up here. There's nothing quite like a July day in Washington where it's kind of a crisp morning and then it's like a dry 85 and the sun's out and man, the mountains are out and the salmon's in season. It's a great place to live. It's not the perfect place. Like you can't really own convertibles up here,
right.
So that like pretty much dictated the type of Lincoln I bought. But at the same time, it has a wonderful, vibrant car culture. We have about 275 parking stalls at our flagship retail store up here in Tacoma. And, we'll fill the parking lot on a cold, rainy day in January just because people know that if they don't get their cars out in the rain, they're never going to get them out. And then there's some extremely talented fabricators, Art Morrison, the chassis, those are built right down the street from us. Some wonderful painters and great car collections. So, we're kind of buried up here in Southeast Alaska. We don't really get a lot of national attention, but it's really a awesome place to live.
Yeah, so everyone out there, don't forget about Washington. It's not all about California and the West Coast. And I had an opportunity a couple years ago to go out to Oregon. Some of my friends in RA, Relaxed Atmosphere, and I always said if I ever get over to Oregon, I'm going to go to Astoria. Big Goonies fan, of course, 80s. We talk a lot about that over on our Lifestyle podcast. But what was cool is although I made the trek all the way over to the Pacific Coast, it was pretty neat, right? It was it was late July, early August, but I tell you, it gave me kind of goosebumps, right? Thinking back to the 80s and things like in my era when I grew up. But like you said, there's a rich history in kind of that whole region. And, I always thought that was pretty cool that, again, like you said, there's folks that forget about it. I want to give a shout out to Robert DeFrang. Now, he lives in Lake Stevens, Washington. And Robert, he had acquired a car that I recently purchased that came from Southern California. It was a 65 Lincoln convertible. And, the listeners have kind of heard a little bit about it, but it came from a U.S. Congresswoman and her husband. But he lives up in Lake Stevens, and he had it for about 5 years. It was his third Lincoln. So what was ironic is I've actually connected with a few people like yourself, Nick, in that region since I bought the car. And I said, man, only in America can you kind of buy a car, and then ended up connecting with some people in that same region.
Yeah, I mean, that is what's amazing about the car culture. Not everybody, the 330 million Americans, loves cars. Most people view them as tools. But when you get into, the pain of maintaining a 60s Lincoln, you're going to be friends with another Lincoln owner right off the bat. So, that kind of transcends a lot of other differences you have with people. And again, if the car crazy people are 10% of the American population, that's plenty of people to be friends with. So it's an amazing network.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And, talking a little bit about Griot's Garage, what's cool is I connected with you like as a Lincoln fan before I kind of put two and two together that you kind of come from the cloth, right, of that entire business, right, organization. And I've always seen that logo. And what I always thought was cool is my buddy Joey, who we had on our Lifestyle podcast last year. They had one Crew Cut, that famous truck now that Dave Schulman owns. They won that years ago. His wife did. But he's a huge fan of the products that you guys put out. So, I want to talk about Lincolns, but you alluded a little bit to the products, Nick, and, talk to the listeners a little bit more about what they can get from your organization.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I think that is different about our company is one, we're still family owned in this environment where all of our competitors are getting bought. And I think it's a wonderful thing to, it's tough working with family, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's a wonderful thing to be able to, be by my dad's side and carry his vision through. And he's really done a lot as it relates to, the time that the business was being formed. He had opportunities to invest in things that would be really hard to do right now. One of those things is manufacturing and research and development. So one thing that's pretty cool is, we have our own manufacturing facility, and full laboratory that's staffed with a handful of chemists and a handful of quality controllers, let alone our whole production team. So we make everything that we sell that's a liquid chemical. And that's pretty unique because that really does start from scratch. And we work back and forth between our product team here in Tacoma and our lab in Indy to get something to market. And that could take, up to 18 months in some cases, just because we're so insistent upon it being perfect and beating the competitive products. And then everything we sell that isn't a liquid is designed by us to our specifications. So we have the ability, just 32 years in business, to invest in unique tools and solutions that we know are superior, that come from higher quality providers, that we can dictate specifications. So really everything kind of has to pass my dad's sniff test, both from like the smell of a chemical and then also the quality of something. He's just very, very type A OCD personality. And we've curated a customer that very much wants that. So you're going to get a good product from us. You're going to know that, we put our blood, sweat, and tears and a ton of energy into making it do exactly what it says it's going to do. And the other thing, being family owned, we are certain of what we sell, and we have a lifetime guarantee on everything. We want you as a customer for life. So if we earn your business once, we intend to keep it at whatever cost. So it's really a high level of certainty to say, hey, we're not going anywhere. Second generation's in the building. When we sell something with our name on it, we're proud of it. And if you don't like it, we're going to take care of you. And then the other thing is that we're actual car guys. This isn't, we're not C-suite dudes in slacks and loafers. We're wearing jeans and t-shirts because we know we're going to work to get dirty. We're going to clean up a car and make sure our stuff works. So it's a pretty, we definitely have people within the organization that don't love cars, but they aren't on the front line as it relates to, connecting with our customers and knowing what car guys want and expect, and the challenges of, getting out there with a crappy soap or a wheel cleaner that doesn't clean your wheels, or a metal polish that doesn't brighten it up the way it's supposed to. We've experienced the frustrations, and we're trying to engineer them out of existence for everybody who buys our products.
I love it.
So we're making stuff for ourselves first, but that comes from, the core passion of automobiles and wrenching on them, restoring them, racing them, driving them, cleaning them, and overall just, enjoying being around other people that like them the same.
Yeah, there's a rich history there, kind of with that family name, so to speak. One of the other things I did want to mention that I thought was cool is you guys do a great job on social media, GRIOTS, Griot's Garage. Back in December, pre-Christmas, you guys talk about the compact sit-on Creeper 2. I love stuff like this because as a car guy, I always love seeing another garage that has cool stuff or shelving. My buddy Joey and Heather, they're into this stuff too. But I think it's awesome because when you think of detailing, especially a lot of us are into lower vehicles. We'll talk about your Lincoln in a little while. But being able to sit comfortably and use a buffer or elbow grease or whatever you're doing, that is so important, right, to making the experience. I worked for a couple decades in a world where everything we did was around the customer experience, right? That user experience you kind of alluded to. How important is it, do you think, to have a product like what you guys have with the Creeper, where you can have that better experience when you're using your products?
Man, again, that's one that is born out of necessity. I mean, if we're talking to Lincoln guys, you got 18 feet by 3 feet tall of flat surface, and if you're polishing the bottom half of your doors or fenders, holy crap, you're going to spend a lot of time down there.
Yep.
And then we've got the whole age range of customers. We got old guys that are grabbing their backs as they're cleaning their wheels, thinking, God, I just want to sit down and do this. So
right.
That Creeper is a legit tool, and if you've got a flat garage, even if you've got like a textured garage, we made sure the casters are good enough to roll over, garage seams and like gravel aggregate driveways and sidewalk seams and stuff like that. And that's just born out of what we know from spending all the time doing these tasks. Like, hey, this doesn't go low enough for this. And so that compact sit-on creeper, that's the second generation. And what we did with it is we actually improved it. So not only is it kind of a standard seat that's about 16 inches tall, but now you can remove what you sit on, and it's got its own set of casters, and you can kneel on what we call a mini creeper and kind of motor around either on your butt or on your knees and get that much lower while not having to put your knees on, like a cardboard box or even onto asphalt or your sidewalk or garage floor. So just every element is considered, and if we don't do it the first time, we're gonna make it better the next time. So that kind of speaks to that consistent investment in those type of solutions. And again, we wouldn't know that if we were sitting in an office chair in a tower, right? Like
right.
You just wouldn't know that was important unless you're out there doing it yourself. I mean, like, man, I need something for this. I need a fix. And that you bring that to market, and if it sells, that everybody else is thinking like you as well. And if it doesn't, you just go, oh, all right, well, they're all wrong. So
I like the way you think. You can
we
follow.
Gotta figure something out for it.
Yeah, no doubt. You can follow Nick on Instagram, NIKI Griot, Griot. You can follow him. You can check out some of what we're talking about. You're a little bit younger than I am, which is a good thing. And I've noticed that you guys from Griot's Garage, you truly understand the importance of social media presence as well as YouTube, right? A lot of us go to YouTube to figure out how to fix things around our house, like our washing machine and stuff. But on Griot's Garage via YouTube, you guys got about 27,000 followers, but a lot of video content out there, including the Creeper, Mini Creeper videos. How important do you guys think it is to have that social media presence and have these continued awesome videos that you guys put out, week over week?
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to like the generational shift, because Griot's was started by my dad as a catalog company, before the internet. So a catalog was the best way to reach new people, right? That was like, we're kind of a dinosaur in that we still send out a catalog. And, when I came back to the company in 2014, Instagram was just getting started. And I was like, hey, we have to put some focus on these spaces. This is what my generation uses to connect and learn. And now all of a sudden, 6 years later or 8 years later, we definitely have a healthy following in Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I think, you can get so specific on YouTube. I think it's the second largest search engine behind Google itself. And so people go there to learn things. It could be as specific as, I'm working on my daily driver's a 1990 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. And I was trying to figure out how to fix my rear window defrost. And sure enough, 6 minutes later, I'm looking on Amazon for a soldering kit, because I'm confident. I just watched this guy do it. Oh, I can do that.
Yep.
And so that's really the power of YouTube, is that, you get this visual cue, this hands-on experience while being, comfortable on your couch and learning something. And, some of the channels that do it the best, I mean, they're consistently getting more viewers than major news networks.
Yes. Yep. So,
and then I think the other thing about, like the Facebook and Instagram space is, you only get, as you're scrolling through Instagram, you've got to make an impression. You've got to have some visual impact. And it's easy for us because we're always surrounded by just heavy hitting stuff, like of every variety. If your car's got paint on it, we like it. And we can also show us using our products on that. So that comes pretty naturally. But then it's also a great way for us to interact with our customers. If we post an image of a product in use, half the comments are going to be, what specific application, or I didn't get that result. What am I doing wrong? So it's almost a double-edged sword. You get that interaction, but you also, everybody has direct access to you. So you'll get like customer service stuff through there. And so it's a full-time job, and as your account gets bigger and your reach gets bigger, that becomes a ton of management. So
yes, it does.
In the time that I've been here, we've hired more staff to manage that, and they're responsible for not only curating the pages, but also managing answering the questions. So they've got to be product experts, and then also directing them to our customer service to resolve any order issues or tracking or process returns. Like it's a great tool, but it can be overwhelming at times too, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we know the success of any organization, one of those pillars is obviously your employees. And like you gave it up to them earlier, there's a lot of hardworking Americans out there, and it's great when they can get behind an organization like you guys because they get the orders out quick and they take care of the end user. But speaking to my homie Joey Romuto, really good dude. Again, he's a huge, I'd say, ambassador, kind of promoter of the brand. And, I was talking with him. I was like, man, what are some questions I could run by Nick? But when you think about the space that we often hear the C word, ceramic, right? And I've seen everything from ceramic coating, sprays, and different things, applications. And I've seen even our friends at Colorado Custom Wheels. They had shared a video that I tagged them in where someone had ceramic coated a billet wheel and someone's pouring water on it. And then, I've had people go, well, you could wax a wheel and pour water on it and we'll do the same thing, right? I think the ceramic coating space is amazing. There's people that have built their whole companies around just that product and that application. For someone like myself that doesn't know a lot about it, kind of what's the elevator pitch of ceramic coatings, and do you guys offer a product for the end consumer?
Okay, I'm going to try and do this in as quick and as and as like simple as possible, because you can really get off into the weeds.
Okay.
But basically, ceramic denotes a inclusion of a high solid ingredient known as silicon dioxide, and that is a derivative of glass. And so, what you're essentially doing when you're buying a ceramic product is you're buying an inorganic ingredient or a product that includes that inorganic ingredient and delivering it to whatever surface it is intended for, whether that be glass, plastic trim, paint, wheels and chrome, and forming a incredibly strong bond via the chemicals and emulsion that you deliver that solid with, that depending on the concentrate or percent content of that silicon dioxide is going to definitely outperform a natural carnauba wax, which is a very traditional product, or even synthetic polymers, which are very popular as well. The differentiation, when you see the word ceramic, you better hope that product does include some of that active ingredient, silicon dioxide, because that's what you're seeking. You're seeking that for both its protective qualities, its UV inhibition, its hydrophobic qualities, which are what make the water beads look really nice and tight. And then also self-cleaning, which is essentially the surface becomes so slick that the water carries itself off your paint, keeps your car cleaner longer, makes it easier to clean the next time you go to wash it. So within that, there are true high solids, which means higher percent content SiO2 coatings. And then there are SiO2 infused products. And those are meant to essentially either stand on their own as more durable than traditional carnaubas and polymers, or serve as supplements and or maintenance products for that higher solids ceramic coating.
Okay.
Now, the biggest difference is that the infused products, anybody can use. An end user can use effortlessly with great results and be extremely happy. The higher solids coatings essentially have enough material in them that when applied to your car, they are essentially a sacrificial clear coat of sorts. So in order to install those higher solids, you really have to have a perfect surface. And that, from a paint standpoint, is one that's free of all defects, whether those be swirl marks, towel marks, spider webs. So it has to be a perfect paint system, or perfectly clean wheel, or perfect chrome. And they can be a little finicky because my analogy is, if you've ever hand painted a fence post with a paintbrush that has fibers, and you start seeing the lines of the paint being transferred to that, you want to even out those lines so that it looks smooth. And that can be the trick of those same high solids coatings. They can be a little finicky. They can create highs and lows. And so unless you're really experienced with paint and using machine polishing, those are really more oriented towards professional installation.
Got it. Now, and then someone like myself, I just don't maybe have the patience, right? I'd say a lot of Americans, if we're not going to take our car, and I think you're probably going here, the type of products that you guys would offer, right? You take that high, I'm going to use the word complexity, right? You take that out, you're at home on a Saturday drinking a brew, you wash your car, you want to detail it. You guys got plenty of stuff that'll cover that stuff, right?
Oh yeah. And really, again, if somebody were to invest in having a professional install a high solid ceramic coating, they'd still need a maintenance regimen, whether they sign up for a detailer to do it and they're going to essentially use the products that we make. Or again, to your point, if you just want better performance, you still enjoy waxing your car, but you want to protect it from the elements a little more, these are great solutions. And as I mentioned earlier, we manufacture every chemical that we make. And so we primarily offer SiO2 infused products, which again are fantastic performers on their own. But really the complication is, to do the higher solid stuff, we need to invest in additional equipment, because you can't, you have to essentially segregate that type of production from all the other products that we make that contain different ingredients that don't jive with that type of technology. So we're in pursuit of a high solids coating and going to manufacture one in the future. But in the interim, we've got this wonderful product line that, again, can serve the person that doesn't want to bother with the high solid stuff, or be used to maintain something that you had a professional installed, and you can do it yourself with no problems.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, one of my best friends, he's been doing all my audio stuff since I was in middle school. He, we often talked about, he's like a true audiophile. He understands the science between, the megahertz and just crazy stuff I don't understand. So I always talk about it with my friends. It's I might put a CD in and be like, oh, this is, this wave format is amazing. And you might be like, Spotify, which I use every day, is the shit. That's all I need, right? So sometimes I think what happens is, I see a lot of times in comments for different detailing products, you'll get people that are like, well, it doesn't include this, it doesn't include that. It's well, look, the majority of our customer base is, XYZ. It isn't, this other product. So to me, I love the stuff that I can come home, wash my car, make it look good. I'm not going to, no offense against, folks that go to a concourse. I've been to a couple of those. But, oftentimes the folks just need a product that's going to work for them at their home. And that's what I love about, going on your website, Griot's Garage, GRIOTS garage.com. All of these products, I kind of feel other than I need to get better at the buffer, I feel like a lot of the stuff I could do at my house and feel comfortable and not screw something up.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, you got to serve your marketplace because if you don't, you're going to go out of business pretty quick. So we listen to our customers. They're asking us for certain things, and we have to prioritize. Again, just to reiterate, we got to do what the majority of people want us to do.
Yes. And
we always have things we want to do that we've got to balance just when we can do them. And so, but to your point, Jason, most people, the biggest thing is most people want to have a relaxing and effective experience. If I get a couple hours away from my wife and kids to go out, crack a few beers and wash my cars. The last thing I want is to be frustrated.
Right.
I want,
yes.
I want to do the job right. I want to enjoy it, relax. And, to your point, I mean, we have concours cars in our collection. We have cars that we drive every day.
Yep.
And you treat them differently, but you can develop skills so that you can approach anything with confidence. And I know that's part of our products. Like, again, if your car has paint on it and you love it, I don't care what it is.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that, when you spend time around it, you're happy because that's what I do.
Yep. Well, it was funny. You made me think of this a couple years ago. This guy, Tony Neal, Slam64 on Instagram, he had shared a meme, and it was kind of funny because if you think about on a a lot of us car guys, we're like, okay, certain wax, certain wash, certain towel, certain dryer. But then we get out of the shower and we just got that one like towel like on our back trying to get all the water off. It's like we got one towel for ourselves, but our cars, which we truly love, right? Our cars and trucks, we got all these certain products, and I love that because it shows how much we're car guys.
Yeah, it actually, I spend a lot of time talking to. Anytime I'm talking to my wife or my mother-in-law about like what I do, I compare it to cosmetics. It's a real easy comparison because they are like cosmetics for your car. Like
they are.
I mean, I don't even want to look over at my wife's side of the sink and be like, "Holy crap, what the hell?"
What is all that Mac stuff and all that? I thought when my wife first said Mac, I was like, "Oh, you bought a new computer?" She's like, "No, just sit down." But to play off of that though, if you think back to like when your dad was younger. And I remember, my dad wasn't like a huge detailer. He'd probably wax his vehicle every couple of years. But if you think about, some people over the course of time have coined this phrase, "Don't reinvent the wheel." But I think that's often sometimes something that people think about. But if you think about if we would have stayed with like, quote, turtle wax, or just these basic products from years ago that, hey, they worked well for what they were, but with technology and science and things like that, some of the key words you've hit on, I mean, I never thought we would be talking about this on a podcast. It goes to show you that, the market drives cool stuff, right? And we all love our cars. And that's one thing that I've noticed about Griot's Garage is over the years, you guys have been kind of a market innovator, a leader, and of course your tagline, have fun in your garage. I mean, dude, you guys nail it every year, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, that all starts with the man at the top. I mean, when I think back to, growing up with my dad, I'd always want to be around what he was doing in the garage because that's where he found sanctuary. I mean, I'm one of 4 kids, so you can imagine trying to start and grow a business and then coming home and 4 little monsters like latching onto you. It's like, God damn, get me out of here.
I just want to wash my car, y'all.
Yeah. So as I got older, I would help him wash the cars, but he was always testing stuff and developing product. Like that was his job at the time. And, he wrote every word of the catalog, and most of it is anecdotes. He sold stuff to people by relating with them. And, my mom's car was the butt of many jokes because, we'd take 4 kids to school and you'd find like pretty much a serving size of McDonald's French fries under the seats, and you needed a vacuum that could suck them up as fast as possible, or you needed like a odor absorber that you could stuff under your seat so the next time you drove your wife's car. So, I mean, it's all extremely genuine from experience. And I just think that, when my dad his dad was not a car guy. So he was like the odd one out, like painting cars in his parents' garage as a teenager. And for me, it was so normal to be around that all the time that I know no other way, right? I mean, this is where I'm going to go when I need to check out. I'm either going to drive, take my dog for a little ride, or get out there and find an excuse to reorganize my screwdrivers or wash something.
I love it. All right, so everyone go to Griot's Garage, GRIOTS Garage.com. Again, customers for life, 100% guarantee. Lots of cool products. Nick, I want to ask you a little bit about your Lincoln Continental, right? I mean, you took the world by storm. There's so many cool things I could kind of maybe pick your brain with about it. But, talk to us a little bit about the Lincoln, right? So, Lincoln Addict Podcast here. But, oh, by the way, I mean, you got just not your average Lincoln. I love it, man. Talk to us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So first of all, I get to look at that car every day, and I just am absolutely in love with the thing. And, when I was a teenager, one of the things my dad did with all of my siblings is we restored a car with him. And so my first car that I worked on was a 71 Camaro, and my dad and I restored that in my garage, or in his garage, for about 5 years. I still own that car, but I did it with my dad, and I'd take my mom out for a ride in it. She just hated that car. She just hated Camaros and like everything old Chevy. And she's like, why don't you get a nice car? Like, why don't you have, like an old Cadillac or an old Lincoln? Lincoln was the one that stuck with me because when she was younger, she used to get driven to school in a slab-sided Lincoln. And the friend whose parents owned the cars, they both had matching Continentals, and she'd get Twinkies when she rode in the back of these Continentals. So she had these great memories of Lincolns. And so that was always kind of in the back of my mind. Like, that Camaro, I hadn't built a car since that Camaro. And I was, when I bought this 63, I think I was 29. So it was a few years ago. And, it had been a good 10 years since I put my hands on something and created something. And I was getting married to my wife, and we bought a house, and we were both obsessed with mid-century modern. And there's this neighborhood in Tacoma that was built in the 50s, like peak mid-century housing design.
Okay. And
we got this photo album when we closed on the house. And in that photo album was a picture of the carport, and the doctor who had owned the house for more than 50 years and had passed away. Those were his cars in the carport, and there were two Lincolns. It was a 63 hardtop, it was white, and he had a 63 black convertible parked next to each other. And so literally I get this photo album, and it's like I'm struck by lightning, and like, okay, that's it. I'm going to bring a Lincoln Continental back to this house. And 10 days after closing on the house, I bought a 63 Continental online from a guy on the East Coast. And I talked to him before I sent him any money. And he had 3 Lincolns himself. So I feel like, Lincoln guys, they collect these cars. And I've gotten that bug as well too. I've got to definitely ask your audience for some help, because I'm looking for something. But he had bought it from the second owner, and the second owner had owned it for 47 years and just absolutely babied this car. So even though it lived on the East Coast, it was rust free, and he had bought it and thought, man, I don't want to put the work in this car to restore it. So sales price was reflective of the work that needed to be done. And in hindsight, I should have paid twice as much up front, so I would have had to pay half as much on the back end to fix up, all the major systems. I mean, any Lincoln owner knows if they go to paint their car, well, frick, man. I mean, the linear feet and the amount of area that you've got to paint, it's just a number I don't ever want to see again. So I got the car back like about a month and a half later, and it was mid 2015, and I just started working on it. And I did everything I could because the car was 100% complete. It ran. It had like an exhaust leak. The carb wasn't tuned right. And all the paint was mostly original. So I just started polishing on it to see what I could save. And, both the chrome elements or the stainless elements and the paint, and nothing was salvageable. It was pretty disappointing in one sense, but I was just like, okay, man, I am pregnant. I love this thing. I'll drive it around like it's smoking, like it's the Animal House, Deathmobile.
Right.
And, but at the same time, I gotta fix it. So I took it back to my dad's garage, and I worked on that for about a year and a half, just chemically stripping the entire thing, deconstructing it, labeling everything, meticulously, with the intention of putting everything back on the car. And in that process, I started researching 430s and what it would take to rebuild them, and just the lack of real aftermarket options because of just the uniqueness of that motor to the Lincoln. And so I got to a point where it's okay, I've done all I can. I've got to get some help. And the guy who was the probably the worst and best influence was a guy named Jared Hancock. He owns J-Rod and Custom, which is a hot rod shop up here. They do fantastic work, but most of the stuff that they do is, pro touring in its essence, right? They really make old muscle cars perform like modern cars. And so in talking with him and kind of blending, I think a little bit of my personality, which, my dad loves European sports cars. He's a vintage racer. So, I grew up around Porsches and BMWs, and he didn't understand why I liked American muscle cars. But we eventually got to this concept hey, we're going to make a Lincoln that's, nasty. We're going to make it handle. We're going to make it break. And we're going to make it do burnouts. And so it led us down a path that, even though is pretty different from what most guys do to Continentals. And that being said, there's plenty of really, really nice builds out there now that feature really high horsepower motors and coyote swaps and things like that. The suspension concept and kind of the wheel and tire and brake concept was definitely unique. And so we navigated that by really just reaching out to all sorts of resources. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of people that I met via Instagram that I was buying parts from because you can't find them anywhere else. Like Lincoln Boys, I know, was a great resource. LaFour Lincoln Parts, all these guys that have been putting ads in Hemmings Motor News forever. And all of a sudden they became, my best friends on speed dial.
Yep.
And they're like, "You're doing what to that car?" Oh my gosh, you're gonna cut that thing up. And it's no, I'm not going to cut it up. I promised the previous owner I wouldn't do anything like that. And eventually, we got to the point where it's okay, if we're going to accomplish this, we do have to do a couple fab items. We've got to raise the transmission tunnel because it just how the rear end is a 4-link custom setup from Art Morrison. So they looked at the underside of the car and helped us set up the rear end. And then Rytec coilovers. And then the only other metal fab that we did on the body itself was we took the space between the stock wheel wells and the edge of the fender, and we tubbed it out towards the fender. So we didn't lose any trunk space. We just took back some dead space, and we were able to fit, some big meaty tires in there. I've got, 305s and 11-inch wide forge line wheels in the rear. So those were the only two real body modifications outside of customizing the front bumper to make it look, a little more aggressive. And it's also functional. It houses the oil and trans coolers in there as well. So those are probably the biggest departures from, just the typical design of the car. And really, then we mated it with a nasty little small block. It's a 427 Ford crate motor that's 535 horsepower, 550 foot-pounds torque, and dressed it up so that we could make it look as period correct as possible. Had EVOD Industries mill some custom valve covers that were designed to pay tribute to the Mark II and its valve covers. And they've got hidden fasteners, so it looks really clean and almost, jewelry-like. But, you turn that thing over and it just spits fire because it's straight pipes all the way back to, the mufflers are, tucked right under the rear bumper. So it makes great noises. It's still a big car, so it's not like going to throw you into the back of your seat. But, man, once that thing gets going, it's big car fast. And the only way I can describe that is that this big beast is moving. But actually, and this will probably surprise most guys that put their Lincolns on bags, it rides beautifully. Mm-hmm. It's, I think, just the unibody nature of that car. It's a pretty stiff, chassis all the way through. And the coilovers definitely make themselves known if you're putting into a corner at speed, but it still has a nice kind of floaty nature about it. Mm-hmm. And it's got massive bear brakes, 6-piston calipers up front, 4-piston calipers, discs in back. So it stops too. It does everything well, but it still resembles a Lincoln. It's still largely unchanged on the outside.
Yeah. And that's one thing that we'll share some photos. If you look also, as Nick mentioned, the letter J, Rod Custom with no S, J Rod Custom on Instagram, you'll see some of the photos that we'll share. I know Fuel Curve, they're also basically powered by good guys. I learned that kind of over time. The feature that they did was amazing. The rolling shots and things like that. The cool thing is, as you mentioned, Nick, it really, to me, it has the core of what the Lincoln was. It has those design elements. You add in those wheels. To me, it looks, it adds that flavor to it. Really, from the front three-quarter shot, the only thing that really looks a little different is, you've got your little spoiler on the front, right? But to me, all of the stuff that you guys did, it was all, I'll use the word tastefully done. And to me, you kind of made, I've seen some people use the P word, the Pro Rod Touring. I've seen some, folks kind of say resto mod, right? But it's a good blend, but there's no one that's going to argue, in my opinion, that engine bay is one of the sickest out there. I mean, from everywhere where the hood latch is, to the engine, to the valve covers, the black accents all throughout. It's truly a stunning engine bay, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this, but if you get into the engine bay of a stock Continental, it's really busy, and so we cleaned up the sides surrounding, where all the ancillary components are, power steering, brake booster, things like that, with those hand fabbed engine covers. So it really cleans it up and brings all the focus. They're matte or they're satin black, so it brings all the focus on the high gloss and chrome elements on the motor. So it's definitely kind of the jewelry on the car. And yeah, I mean, those guys at J-Rod, they're just extremely talented fabricators, and they've got screws loose as well. And I think the coolest thing at the end of the day, the most comments I get about the car are on the wheels, and they're like, "Man, just put it on Steelies and be done with it." It's
I know. Well, everybody's done that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I love Steelies.
Me too.
I got no problem with Steelies. I put some on one of my other cars, and
yep.
I think it just fits the attitude of the entire build really well, without really being like bright gold or anything that's too over the top.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Detroit Steel Wheel Co. Shout out to the homies over there, and I totally agree. The other aspect of it that maybe isn't talked about as much is if you just Google Fuel Curve, 2 words, and then Lincoln, it's going to pop up with this feature that John Drummond did. Drummond, Grummond. The interior, right? So I love the shot that he did where all 4 doors are open. We talk about resto mods and things like that, but these interiors are oftentimes, pieces of art that don't need to be touched, right? So to me, what was cool is, you do the Dakota Digital gauges, right? You bring it up to specs with the engine. It makes it a little easier there. You got a couple, it looks like inserts maybe from where the door panels are at. Kind of looks like that carbon fiber feel. Real clean. But other than that, you don't really have to do much because you've got this beautiful, like you said earlier, mid-modern century classic car, sedan.
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest things about the car, and I just think that the design and why people love it so much is it's still like a stunning and relevant design. Like every piece of the interior, the door handles on the exterior, all of that was so elegant and timeless. And I remember one of the biggest compliments that I can give to Jared Hancock is the first time I showed the car the year after we debuted it at SEMA all over the Good Guys circuit. But I went to the Iowa Good Guys show for the first time because the Good Guys had said, hey, if you bring it to this show, it'll be considered for this award. Mm-hmm. And so I'm working the show in our booth and meeting customers and selling stuff like I normally do. Went to the bathroom. I came back and some guy's laying under the rear end. And I was like, excuse me, can I help you, sir? And, a guy crawls out from under the car and it's Mike Ring, one of the Ring brothers.
Wow.
And he goes, who did this? That boy can weld. And, it was just such a, I just was completely disarmed because I've totally loved everything that those guys do. And to have him like crawling under my car, it was just like a fantastic moment. And his wife came up and she goes, are these custom? And she's pointing at the door handles. And Mike's like, no, honey, those are as they were. And she starts like pointing at all these things, asking if they are custom. And, right. The answer is consistently no. Like, this is how it was.
Well, that's factory. Yeah, they got that stuff right.
Yeah. And so she was just so enamored with the car, but she just didn't believe that anything was, true to form. And I mean, she learned obviously, and it was cool, but that's really, to your point, I just loved everything about it. I wanted to make it mine, but I didn't want to really mess it up either. It doesn't need to be changed. So, just some modern touches, and then just, really simple and clean interior. And the cool thing about the interior is all I did with that, I reskinned the seats, but every other piece of vinyl and chrome and glass, that's all original. All I had to do was, and this took a lot of time, but the second owner definitely was a smoker, and there was tobacco tar all over, just like extremely well bonded to all the interior chrome. So I spent hours polishing the interior chrome, and it all went back on. And then I just cleaned and dressed all the vinyl components, put them back in. So I didn't have to restore any of that. But the leather definitely needed to be redone. It was all sorts of messed up. So it really is kind of like, I would say resto mod, because there is an aspect of restoration to some of the components of the car. And the cool thing is every piece of that car came off the car and went back on. So I didn't have to buy anything outside of a new windshield.
Oh yeah.
And that was about it. And then of course paint and parts, but and not like that wasn't a long list of other little components, but really it's pretty true to what it always was. So, but it is different in the same vein.
Yeah, if you we're talking with Nick from Griot's Garage. If you just Google fuel curve Lincoln Continental, those 4 words, it'll pull up that feature. We've shared some photos in the past. We'll continue to share more. Just a couple more questions for you, Nick. One thing that you probably know as a Lincoln owner now is there's this, this famous movie star guy, Dax Shepard, right? I like Dax. I like his movie. He's been in some TV shows and stuff. Dax, of course, is this hot rod, Lincoln fiend. He's got like a 66, 67 model. Has Dax ever seen your car? Because I bet you if he does, or if and when he does, he's going to give you 2 thumbs up, man.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I remember the early, like right when we debuted the car, I had a lot of people comparing my car to his car.
Yeah.
So I started reading about it, and I mean, that's his original car. Like he lived in it when he wasn't making any money, And so I think he's on like his third motor swap, and he's got like a drag transmission, and he's changed the wheels a handful of times. And I mean, that thing is absolutely hog wild. And I would hope for his endorsement, because I think we'd understand each other immediately. He also has an old wood-sided Buick Roadmaster wagon. So again, I think we'd have a lot to talk about. And if I got his thumbs up, that's not what I'm doing it for. But at the same time, be like, hell yeah, brother. We're speaking the same language.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tweet it to him and be like, "Yo, Dax, we got someone for you, man." But of course, Dax was featured. The '67 was a Hit and Run movie, but pretty cool stuff. The last couple questions I got. One, I know you're gonna get a smile from this one. So the video that has, in my opinion, has went viral is that famous video of like the garage being open, the car starts and kind of just pulls out, and it's kind of a shorter clip. That video has been shared and reshared over the years. Again, debuted SEMA 2017, about 5th year anniversary coming up this year, of course. But does it bring a smile to your face, or is your mind sometimes blown on how much that video of your car, the 63 Lincoln Continental sedan, has went viral? I mean, dude, I see it everywhere still to this day, man.
Oh, that one is nuts. I mean, it's millions and millions of views. And the crazy thing is, like, at this point, all my buddies will, like, when they're stumbling through whatever the Instagram algorithm is feeding them, they like stumble onto that video and they'll send it to me. And it's like, like all the comments are written in Farsi and like symbols that I can't understand.
Oh yeah.
But I can see the exclamation points. So I'm like, fuck yeah. These guys definitely, they're into it. And it's like, somehow it got posted onto some like Middle East car forum, and it's got 500,000 views.
Yeah. Like,
again, 4 years later. So, and it just is like, it's such a, I don't know, just a mean video. Mm-hmm. And, the guy who did most of the some of the metal fab work is sitting in the passenger seat. So it's the first time that he's ever ridden in the car, and I can just see his face as well. And yeah, it definitely makes me smile. But it's like, man, we do this smoky burnout video, and it's just this, we're laying down gnarly patch, the thing's screaming, and we get like 5,000 views, and then this just like low, slow roll is getting millions of views. So that one is definitely surprising. Just like how that stuff happens, I have no idea. I'm not that good at making things go viral, but that one, for whatever reason, struck a chord with enough people that it went all over the world.
Yeah, it did, man. And we tip our cap to you. Next time I'm up visiting my friend Ron Perkins from Hammered Weekend Wear, he's up in Washington, I'm going to have to look you guys up and come by and see it and maybe get a ride in it, because I tell you what, man, it has definitely taken, over the past 4.5, almost, going on 5 years this year, really kind of taken the Lincoln, community by storm. And I always tell people, too, that, tip your cap to someone like Nick that has put in the time to bring a car up to specs, because a lot of times, these cars do end up as parts cars, even nice ones. I've seen it happen. And, don't judge someone just because, like, oh, wow, they changed the wheels and whatnot. These cars are, when you acquire one, you decide, hey, am I going to do it this way or this way? But to me, and I can tell you, all the listeners, that they're going to say, hey, man, tactfully done, very nice, classy, you insert word there. The thing is top notch, man. My last question for you, Nick, is, what you kind of hinted earlier about this car, but like, what would you say if you had to pick one favorite thing about your 63 sedan, whether it be the paint, engine bay, interior, the comments you get? Is there any one thing that stands out maybe in your mind the past 4.5 years that goes, man, that's it?
Well, I mean, in terms of traits of the car itself, it's definitely the exhaust note. I just love it because it's just got a great cam lope and just tall enough stall that it's just, even if it's sitting at a stoplight, it's causing havoc. And to the point where, like, if I'm driving to the gym in the morning and I've got the Lincoln out in the summertime, I go to work out at 6 a.m. So I'm leaving my house at 5:30, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to wreck the neighborhood. And I I love that about it. But I think, the thing about Lincolns, and in particular these slab-sided Lincolns, is I didn't realize the mass appeal of the cars.
Oh yeah.
I never had that in mind. And I can't tell you when I drive it, just the variety of people and types of people, young, old, male, female. We parked it at this local burger joint to do a video, last fall. And, I had this pastor come up to me and say, this is, my neighbor had one of these growing up, and I used to ride to church in it. And old cars, people have memories in them. And I guess for how few Lincolns they made relative to all the other cars that they were cranking out in the 60s, as the automotive industry in America was just king, for a car that was being made, 30,000 units a year, for so many people to have memories and then at the end of the day, like the car, that to me just speaks to the strength of the design and its relevance in, today. So I didn't know that. And again, I wasn't building it for that. I was building it to be enjoyed and to be, a reflection of my personality and all the things that I cared about. And to have that benefit of, it's a nice car. And you can drive a nice Porsche around and people will flip you off.
Right.
To drive this thing around and just have people literally leaning out their windows, hollering
taking photos,
at you.
Thumbs up.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's hard to imagine that it's approachable and that many people like it. But I think that's probably been my favorite thing about it because, as much as I love the Lincoln itself, I love cars and what they do to people.
Yeah.
And to be able to have something that connects with people that may not like cars, that's special. I think that, and I hope that everybody else who owns a car that's special to them, and in particular the Lincoln owners, have that same feeling about their cars. Because I think that, that's validation in a point for any work and any money you put into these cars, but also just, it's a sense of community too when you are able to share that with people. So even, just complete strangers of all walks of life. That's what I love the most about the car, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, to be able to share it with others or bring a smile to their face and go, wow, tip of the cap, because we know it's not cheap stuff. But, in 63, there's 28,095 sedans coming in originally at $6,270. Of course, there were about 3,100 convertibles or so. But, it's definitely a timeless. We hear the oftentimes classic. And you'll often see the comment anytime a Lincoln, whether it's resto mod, like what we're talking about here, OG, full-blown, crazy custom, insanity, you'll hear people often say, that's my dream car. So, get out there, enjoy them for sure, like Nick does. But Nick, dude, it's been a pleasure, man, talking about Griot's Garage. I mean, that was a little bit off the cuff because I love this stuff. I don't know a lot about it. I'm the worst detailer because I'm, drinking a brew, going, hey, is this going to scratch my paint? And they're like, wait, hold on, don't put that on there. But, it's fun linking up with you and getting a chance to meet you. And, then obviously talk Lincolns. Why don't you give your wife and indoor kids a shout out and then let me know if there's anything else you got, man.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate my wife and kids. And again, they let me do what I do and they understand it. If my wife ever asks me about, car parts on my credit card bill, I go, babe, it's marketing. And she just rolls her eyes. And then I've got to look at more makeup bottles on the sink. But no, I'm very happy to have a supportive wife. She actually stole my she's been driving my Mercury station wagon around this whole week because I finally got that thing sorted and I brought it home and she's like, oh, I dig this thing. So I'm literally driving her car around this week and she's driving my two little boys around in a, wood-sided Mercury wagon. So she's the best without a doubt. But the one thing, if I'm speaking to an audience of Lincoln enthusiasts, I mentioned the other Lincoln I'm looking for So I gotta plug that, and I'm looking for a 1978 Continental Town Coupe with a moonroof. So one of my local Lincoln buddies has a sedan of that era, late 70s, and literally it's all we talk about. And we just hired a new lady whose husband picked her up for their first date in that exact car. And I was like, what are the chances that the first time I talked to this lady, we hit it off about Lincolns, and it ends up that the one Lincoln I'm looking for is what her husband picked her up in. So
Wow.
That's the one I want to find. That'll be my next. That will be a low and slow car. That's not going to be a hot rod. I just want to,
Right.
And it's got to be a coupe because I've got the 4-door. So yeah, if anybody knows of one that's in pretty good shape that I'm not going to have to, bleed to make work, I'm your guy. You can, I think Jason plugged my Instagram, so you can come DM me and I'll take it off your hands if the price is right. So either way, man, I really appreciate, just the connection that we've established just through messaging each other and seeing each other's posts over the past few years. That's the magic of social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to run into each other somewhere soon. And if you do make it up to Tacoma, you'll get to tour our facility and see the whole smattering of craziness that we do here. There's all sorts of stuff. It's it's old Italian, it's old Japanese Land Cruisers, it's everything that rolls on rubber. So we're incurably sick as it relates to cars, and I just so happen to stumble into the Lincoln community and love being a part of it. So I'm stoked to have talked to you.
Yeah, show some love. Get out to griotsgarage.com. You can Google GRIOTS. Of course, all social media platforms, as we mentioned. Nick is Niki, Griot, Griot. Get out there, show him some love, some Lincoln love as well. We'll be tagging you. But, dude, Nick, it's a new year, 2022. Tip of the cap to you. Let's all have a good one. Tell your family hello and stay on the rise, as we always say, man.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Have a good one, man.